Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Tower Yoga podcast. I am here again with a couple more episodes, or it's one episode, a couple more interviews of teacher trainees who are now actual teachers who have graduated from our most recent cohort of our yoga teacher training. So this first interview is Sadako, and I just am so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to be on here. We did have a little bit of technical difficulties getting on, so thank you for bearing with me. And as I said, practicing your yoga already this morning with me. But I do want to hand it over to you to allow you to introduce yourself, to let any of the listeners know anything that you feel is important about you.
My name is Sadako. and I love Tower Yoga. Truly, I do.
Amazing. Thank you. So, what initially drew you to sign up for a teacher training in general, our teacher training specifically? Was there one moment that you just knew? Was this a calling that had been percolating there for a little while? Yeah, let us know why did you do that?
Well, you guys have a lot of breadcrumbs in class with teacher training and the things coming up, and you guys kept mentioning it, and I get like these tingles in my belly, and I'm like, huh, okay, I think I'm interested, but I don't want to be a teacher. I was very adamant about that in my head. So I was like, maybe I don't want to do it, and that's a lot of time and energy, and for something I don't want to do. And then you guys would say, like, well, you could use it to further your own insight of yoga and all of that. And I'm like, okay, maybe I do want to try this. And then I had like these feelings like, if I did it, I would want to do it here. Because, of course, I went home and Googled it. And I'm like, so what would this be like? And do I have to test? I'm super scared of tests. Like, is it going to be like school or is it going to be like the amazing classes? I didn't know. And then you guys had the like a information meeting about it. And I thought that was super cool because it was interactive. You had someone who had participated there and her spouse, and I just thought all the avenues were hit on my questions, and I was like, yeah, I think I might want to do this. And if I did do it, I would have to do it here because it seems very personal, and I was building a connection with the studio and with you guys. It felt really important to take it with you.
Hmm.
And I didn't want to miss that opportunity. Something said rush, not next year, like now. And I just was like, I don't know if Kelly's going to be there if I say I'm going to do it later. I want to work with you, and I want to get to know that side of me with this with this space. After that information meeting, I was like, oh, it's happening. It's happening. I'm doing it. And I had some personal situations in my life that solidified it for me. It was just like, I need a healthy, enlightening, productive distraction. And it was right on time.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you knew it.
I did. It really wasn't a question. I kind of came home and was like telling my husband, "This is happening," and he was like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, like it has to happen." He's like, "You seem really sure." So
My
yeah,
gosh, I love it. I love it. And I have to say that you were coming to class regularly, and I was kind of getting to know your practice. And so it was just really cool. You always add so much anytime you're in a room, period. But just the presence that you bring to a class, it's like palpable, seriously. And
Mm.
so when you came to the meeting, I was like, and then you seemed pretty sure even before you went home. You kind of like I don't we kind of had this like cosmic head
yeah.
nod from even across the circle of like talking, and I just like knew it bone deep. I was like, she will
Yeah.
be here. Yeah. That was
It's
so
so
cool.
funny to say no, like no, I'm not doing this, and everything else is like, "Yep, it's happening." It's like I'm very confused.
Oh, I do feel like that is the difference between wanting to do something and like genuinely answering a deep call from within.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because before this experience, I'm longing for my purpose or calling or path. And it's so funny how you get these little signs and you're like, no, that's not it. No, that can't be it. Nope. But I want my sign. I want my calling. It's like, that's not it. And it's like you feel it and you're like, yeah, whoa,
It's a
this is
feeling.
it. Yeah.
It's a knowing.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, so now that your cohort graduated in May, so at the time of this recording, we're about a month, actually a little more out from that, maybe even like 6 weeks or something. So, how has your understanding of yoga evolved from when you started the training to now being, on the other side of it?
Well, when I started the training, I thought yoga was just on the mat. There was nothing else for me in my mind because I didn't know. Because Tower is my first experience with yoga, period. So I came in really green and really open. So when we started the training and I hear asana, and I'm like, okay, wait, I'm confused. Like, there's more? I get to do this without moving my body? And there's other parts that get to be awake, like my body. So that was enlightening, and it was just like, wait a minute, this is so deep. Like I can practice 24/7 with every part of my life. And after the training was a true understanding of that. Now I get to kind of dissect in my day to day and in my life and in my experiences what I've learned and really kind of feel whole in a sense, even when I feel incomplete. Like I could just go, okay, pranayama, okay, asana. Like I can dissect it and go, where can I use what, you know? And I like having those tools now. Now I just feel like my toolbox is full. I don't feel like, oh, I got to get some more. And true, of course I need to learn more, but I just feel like I'm equipped now to learn, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
I'm
it does.
open to learn with the
Yeah,
right material.
that makes so much sense. It's making me think of like sometimes we do need to go wider in accruing and resourcing ourselves for life. Sometimes we have enough, we just need to go deeper. So it
Hmm.
sounds like you're like, I have enough. Now it's time to like dig
Yeah,
and
it's like
just,
that saying, you can't see the forest from the trees.
Mhm.
Now I have a better view. Now I'm not in the forest. I'm like above it, and I can see what I need to grab to utilize the space I'm in.
Totally
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
So, looking back, what personal transformation, or if there was some kind of unexpected insight? I mean, it sounds
Hmm.
like you already answered that because you literally practiced all eight limbs and not just one. That was sounds like that was surprising to you, but was there any like personal transformation or something that you didn't expect that you gained from your experience?
Yeah. Not to get like super emotional, but I like myself now. And it's not like I didn't before. It was like, oh, I hate her. No, but I didn't really understand her, you know? And now I like her. I just feel like I make more sense to me now. I'm not so much of a mystery.
Uh,
I feel like I put on an outfit that was made just for me, that I didn't know how to wear before, that didn't really fit, and I would critique my body, and the outfit was it, but not me. Now I am the outfit, and I'm just like, yes, like we feel good. Like my skin feels good to me now. My flaws feel good to me now. My mistakes are understandable. My lesson, like it's all okay. Like, okay, you're kind of cool, you know? And I think the hero's journey it was like it all was like, wait a minute. It was the perfect exclamation mark that I needed.
I love it. For listeners, Farron actually does a really cool hero's journey workshop that when Farron took our teacher training in I think 2019, James and I had led that with them. And, she's taken that on and does such an amazing job because she's a writer. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we do that workshop in our teacher training towards the end, the hero's journey. And so that's what Sadako is referencing. And and that's, we kind of place it at the end there.
The timing was impeccable because I had not so much confusion, but I just had all these pieces and I didn't know where to put them or what to do with them. I just felt good and buzzy. And then at the end, we do this hero's journey, and I'm just like, oh my God, it all makes sense. And this feels so good to be able to grab everything and put it in its place. It was just like, oh man, this is the best kind of confusion ever.
This is so awesome. This is genuinely like what a teacher training can do. It's not that it's going to do it right because it's not just the training like you had to show up and be willing and
Yeah.
be in the right place at the right time and all that kind of stuff. So it is such a collaboration between the student and teachers and the
Yeah.
curriculum and life and all these kinds of things. So it's just there's the willingness and the dedication on both sides and there's also this like mystery entity that like holds it all together.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool. You just added so much and I learned so much from you. And I really appreciated how vulnerable you were in this, interview, but literally since I've met you. And yeah, it's really awesome. And I think this is an example of even if you don't go and teach public classes or something like that, which like maybe you will,
Hmm.
but that wasn't your intention. My
Hmm.
point is, even if you were to never go and teach a class to the public like one day in your life, like this is still so amazing and such a good investment, and I
Yeah.
try to tell that to people who are really interested but are completely turned off from the idea of taking a teacher training because they don't want to teach and they don't want something to go to waste. And I get it, like it's a
Yeah.
huge financial investment and all that kind of stuff, but it's cool to hear from someone like you where you're like, what price tag could you put on like what you've gained now on the other side of it?
You can't. Like, it changed the game. I don't really think when you first pay, you're like, okay, I expect this because that's like the energy we put around money and what we want in return, you know?
Mhm.
And I feel like once you dive into it with these people, with the teachers, you're like, oh, okay, money is irrelevant. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really is because you can't pay for this kind of awakening. You can't either, you can pay the money and you may not get anything. You can pay the money and you get it instantly. It's like, what did I bring? What did I want from it? I came
Yeah.
in and was like, okay, I don't know. I'm just open. And everything just meshed because
Mhm.
I wanted it. I wanted to know what I was made of, and money wasn't my focus and neither was teaching. But now I know the view on teaching changed. It wasn't like I'm a teacher and this, it was like, do you want to give back? And it's like, wait a minute. Yes, I do. Of course I do. And this is how I can, like, I don't have to be perfect. I could just show what I know and give myself, and that's enough. Wait, what? Like,
100.
it, huh? That's what, and it changed also how I view you guys when I'm in your class or any teacher for that matter. It's just so much of yourself. And then you become so thankful for the lessons that day, and it's just like, wow, they came and they gave parts of themselves for my insight, and I love that. It changed how I view teaching. It really did.
It's such a reciprocal thing. And
Yeah.
there's some days and classes and moments and students you have where you feel like you give a little bit more. There's some
Yeah.
days where you feel like you get a little more, where you're like, how am I so lucky? Why do I deserve this? But it all balances out, I think, in the end. When I look back at like my 5 to 8 classes I teach in the week,
Mhm.
there might be one day where I feel like I get a little bit more, and then one day where I feel like I get a little bit more, but it's there's a deep reciprocity there and energy
Yeah.
exchange. And it's really cool. I don't know how many jobs, although it's like my hope and dream that like everyone who, works, whether it's with their passion or just a skill they're really good at, gets that
Yeah.
at the end of their work week. But
Yeah.
thank you so much. I do want to honor our time here. I have some rapid fire questions though before we go. Are
Okay.
you ready?
For sure. Let her rip.
Okay. What is your vibe today? Downward facing dog or shavasana?
Wow, dog. I can't believe I'm saying it. Ugh.
What's your favorite yoga pose to do when nobody's watching?
Oh God. Handstand, headstand.
I love it. You're
Yeah.
definitely not alone on that one. If you could take a yoga class with any fictional character, who would it be?
Winnie the Pooh.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so if you had to choose between a spontaneous kirtan, music, singing, chanting, or silent meditation, what's your pick?
Silent meditation. I talk
All
enough.
right, cool. Okay, and then this one might be a little bit of a tough one on the spot, but which yoga sutra would make a great band name?
Oh God. Is this a yoga thing? Staya? Is that it? A
Mm-hmm.
staya?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I always hear it. I like it. A
All
staya.
right.
Yeah.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you so very much for your time. Thanks for sharing your story. I hope that anyone who's listening can hear something in it that sparks something within them. And it's just cool to get these stories out, testimonial style, because I think that there are a lot of people who might have that spark or that feeling in their tummy, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
but might not for whatever reason feel the courage to like jump in, but they can hear and they can see if they're watching this podcast to believe that it might be right for them too. So thank you
Yay.
so much.
Of course, happy to be a part of it.
This is the second interview on the same episode. We're doing this little series of interviewing, essentially doing testimonials from teachers officially who did our teacher training the last round, the last cohort of trainees. And we've already released one episode where we had two interviews, and they just happened to be anchor buddies. In our teacher trainings, we assign anchor buddies, people that can kind of be there for each other throughout the entirety and maybe even beyond if they want to of the training. And so the last episode with the two interviews I did, it just so happened that they were anchor buddies. It's like how random but not random. And so that this is when I reached out to the next two people who would be interested in doing interviews. I realized that Sadako and Nat were both available around the same time. And I was like, oh, yeah. And they were anchor buddies. So it's cool. It's like the universe is willing this to be so. So we did just have an interview with Sadako, and that was awesome. And Nat, this is the second time that you've been on our podcast. So welcome back. I would love to just hand it over to you. You can introduce yourself or reintroduce yourself and just let the listeners know anything that you feel is important that they should know about you before we get going.
Well, yes. Thank you, Kellee. Excited to be back. Yes, my name is Nat Strafacci, they, them pronouns. I'm a therapist, I'm a psychic medium, and I'm a community herbalist. So, yeah, I wear many hats under my practice, which is called Sun Shadow Healing. And yeah, the most recent journey I've been on was completing Tower Yoga's yoga teacher training, and I'm excited to share a little more about my experience with it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Mhm.
So, what initially drew you to sign up for, I think like a 200-hour in general, but
Mhm.
specifically ours? Like, was there a moment? Was there like a calling that had been building inside?
Yeah, I think for me, yoga had been a really consistent part of my life the past year-ish, year and a half. I had done a big transition moving from New York to California, and yoga was just a really beautiful space that I could like dedicate to myself, meet myself in, and then finding the Tower Yoga community was also really beautiful. It's just a really supportive space, and I always felt very comfortable and welcome there. And so when the studio started talking about teacher training, I found myself just really wanting to deepen my practice by learning more about the history and the spiritual component of the practice of yoga. So I really wanted to just prioritize deepening my practice versus becoming a yoga teacher. And yeah, I learned a lot. It was really powerful.
That's incredible, especially because you do come from a background of, maybe your consistent practice was just in the past year or so, but as you shared on the last time you were on the podcast, that you'd been exposed and had practiced yoga for a long time, maybe not consistently, but a long time. And you're also, like deeply connected to the spiritual realm. So it's cool to know. I think if someone has been dabbling in yoga and other philosophical and spiritual things, that if they've been doing that for a long time, they might get a sense of like, what could I get out from doing a beginning, like a 200-hour teacher training, but it's cool to hear from someone who has been steeped into this kind of arena, if you will, for a long time. And
Mhm.
of course, there's still plenty to gain.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like such a beautiful, like, bridge. Like it just, I feel like the training for me helped me connect so many dots. So, like in my therapy practice, I do a lot of work around somatics with folks. So, really talking about our nervous system, how our nervous system is impacted by trauma, and how that can kind of influence our relationship to our body and our body in space, and when we want to stay in our body versus leaving it. And then also with more of like the spiritual work, the psychic mediumship, it's like I feel like yoga just was like a provided like a framework and a context for how all of that is connected, in terms of like the mental health, the spiritual health, the emotional health, the physical health. And that was really what I was desiring to also deepen my knowledge in, because the worlds I work in can feel so separate. And learning about like this ancient practice was really like, oh yeah, no, like this is normal. We cannot separate our minds from our bodies from our spirits. And there's like indigenous ways of knowing that like honor that and have whole systems set up for like maintaining wellness around that. So yeah.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Awesome. Okay, so then, I mean, that sort of speaks to like the next question, but please, if there's more you can add, how has your understanding of yoga specifically evolved from when you first started the training?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I remember in like my little just Q&A interview with Jameson, I was like, I really want to deepen my practice, but I'm not that flexible. And he just kind of chuckled and he was like, you'll be fine. It's really about something else, and he kind of left it at that. And I was like, okay, and, I think there was a big part of me that was like, I've been practicing consistently for a year, but like, I can't do any of the crazy poses. And, I'm flexible in certain ways, but not other ways. And so just going through the program and the training, it was just like so grounded in the history and the spiritual component and how it's like rooted in our lives, like, and in our relationships, and how yoga is about like being in yourself, being with community. I feel like it's like cheat code for like how you relate to life, how you show up. That I was like, oh, okay, like the second week I was like, got it. It has nothing to do with being flexible, and it has everything to do with like um yeah, cultivating like inner freedom and peace and liberation and sharing that with those around you. And in my opinion, like, yeah, building the world that we believe everyone deserves to exist within. That's when it started to click, like maybe the second session for me. I was like, got it. I don't need to do the splits for this.
It just, yeah, so great. And of course, like people have to come to that on their own. Like we can hopefully reassure enough that they're like, let's dive in. Yeah, I will do this training, but it's cool to see that like those moments when they click with people. And then, it's so funny for lack of better words, but then you see their bodies generally getting a little stronger or more flexible. So it's like it does kind of happen, but it's so not the point
Yeah.
that even if it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not like slamming into the splits or doing a handstand, not that you'd want to do that anyways, but you're probably a lot closer because it is a very physical training as well. And
Yeah.
it's part of also why we really want to communicate to people when they're adamant on not teaching, especially
Mhm.
to like the public, but they want to just deepen their practice, which is totally like fine. You're going to get so much out of the training regardless. But we're like, you're still practice teaching, you're still developing sequences, and you're doing all this and that. And because you are cultivating your voice, you are using your creativity to build a sequence, a class around like a goal and things like that, right? So there's there's a lot that is developed and honed within the training that hopefully allows someone to feel very comfortable to take the first step and like really start their teaching journey. Or all of that, even if they don't use it into a public class or whatever, those mediums, they're just mediums.
Mhm.
And maybe that was like the only time they were practicing teaching and developing a sequence or something like that. But it's a really huge part in integrating all of the other philosophy and things like that we're sharing.
Yeah. I appreciated that. Like at the end of the training, it was like, we have this solid takeaway, like I know a couple other folks who've done different teacher trainings in different areas of the country, and they kind of left it feeling like, well, now what? I don't know, And so I really appreciated that, like, every class or every segment we had was like, okay, we're practicing teaching, we're learning and we're practicing. And then, at the end, it was like we not only got experience practicing teaching, but we also were walking away with like lesson plans that we had created. So that was
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah. So, looking back, what personal transformation or maybe just an unexpected insight stands out the most to you from your experience through doing the training?
Yeah. So I think going in, I definitely was like wanting to do it for me, right? Like really prioritize, like, this is a way I'm like pouring back into myself by like practicing this, deepening my study of yoga. And I think from that, I was just able to see like ways of working, certain relationships where I wasn't pouring into myself, or I wasn't sort of saying like, how am I also prioritizing my needs? I think as someone whose like work is caregiving in multiple capacities, it can be really easy for me to kind of just like give, or like just be the soft landing all the time. And, which is important. We all need to be giving, we all need to be a soft landing for our community. But I think sometimes for me personally, I could just get caught up in that and be like, I'm fine. I don't have as many needs. Like, I'll be fine. And like this program was really like, no, like part of being in community and like studying and deepening your relationship to this practice is deepening your relationship to yourself. And like, I can't be pouring from an empty cup. So I think that was definitely something that stood out to me. Like, yeah, moving forward, like, I want to just continue working on, right, asking for what I need and like being open to receiving. I think like that's been a theme for me this chapter of my life. And yoga really spotlighted that, like, receive, you need to receive. Everybody needs to receive, you too. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can't imagine people imagining, I can't imagine people imagining that it would be something they would take away from doing a teacher training, but it is, and I know it is. This is why doing these testimonies is so huge because in the different trainings I've done in the past, in ways have gotten things that you're talking about and have received, and this is a huge sort of push to invite people on to speak to this kind of thing because for whatever reason this just isn't, it's hard to like market, for lack of better words, these kinds of things that you get from doing a huge investment, because it's a big investment of like time and money and energy and all these kinds of things, but these are the things that you don't even realize that are potentially there to get from investing in something like this. So just thank you for sharing your story. And I think it speaks to a lot of people's story. You're even giving voice to things that I felt I haven't had a platform or found the words to say, and you did so eloquently. So thank you on behalf of myself and anyone else who resonates with your story. Okay. We have some rapid fire questions that I've asked everyone. So some little different ones, but it's just like, don't overthink it. Just whatever comes to mind first.
okay.
Okay, so if your yoga mat had a secret nickname, what would it be?
Jeez. I don't know. I would just say, I don't know if this is a nickname. I would just call her Steadfast.
Ooh, I like it. I like it. So good. All right. What's your favorite yoga pose to do when nobody's watching?
Mm, probably practicing the headstand just because I'm like falling over.
What is your least favorite pose that you pretend to like?
Mm, my least favorite pose. I don't pretend to like it, but I'm not like a huge fan of Happy Baby. I know like
Hmm.
it's nice that we're winding down and we can take it at the end of class, but I don't love touching feet with my neighbors after like 55 minutes of sweating. So I don't pretend, but I'm like, okay, it's time to do this. We're just gonna go through the motions. Yeah.
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 All right. Good answer. All right. If yoga were a food, what do you think it would be?
I feel like yoga isn't the food and it's the kitchen.
Mic drop. We might just have to end with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one. All right. Well, thank you so very much. Thank you for literally like everything that you offered in the training, your energy, your presence, just the way that you not only did like hold space for others within the training, but also you and I could tell it wasn't necessarily like as natural or definitely not easy, but you did open,
Hmm.
you did receive. And it maybe took a few sessions, you know. I saw that kind of unfolding maybe like in the third weekend or something like that. But and that is just such a beautiful example to others who have a hard time too, which is more common, unfortunately, than you might think. So, or just the average person might think. So, yeah, yeah, that was a really beautiful thing to like witness, and I learned a lot from you as well.
Thank you,
So,
Kellee.
thank you
Yeah,
so
no,
much.
it was a really beautiful experience. Yeah, I just appreciate you and the community at Tower. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you so much.
You too. Bye.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.